Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. My name is Funmi Owolabi and I am the principal attorney at this firm. Today's review, we're going to be looking at a cookie notice. So I just want to quickly hover over the types of products and services we have here. We have hardware and software to some degree. We also have the banner. I'm just going to scroll to the bottom and see when last this was updated. Okay, it was last updated January 22nd, 2026. That's interesting. Okay, that was very recent. That's excellent. Okay, let me see if I can reopen the banner. Interesting, I scrolled down to the bottom. I hadn't exercised any preferences related to the site, but I'm going to exercise my settings here. So you can see that every single cookie is currently switched on. And this is consistent with obligations this organization has to me as a consumer of the site, as a US resident. If we were accessing this site from the European Union, then these should be off in consistency with what is required under the GDPR, which is the European Union Data Protection legislation that dictates that individuals should have the opportunity to opt in. So with respect to this cookie preference center, right now, all of the cookies have been turned on because I am accessing this site from the United States. I am a United States resident, and as such, the obligation that this organization has to me is to ensure I have the opportunity to opt out, which I'm going to do. If I had been accessing this site as a European Union resident, none of these buttons should be turned on. EU residents under the data protection laws have the opportunity to opt in to cookies, in addition to that banner that we originally saw. So I'm going to confirm my choices. Let's get into the actual cookie notice. I think something that's also very unique about this organization is they've actually listed out the cookies. The only recommendation I would make too, which you'll see consistently in additional cookie notice reviews, is that sometimes when it comes to these charts, organizations also add a retention period, and the retention period will identify how long the cookies are stored. So it might be like a session cookie. It might be 1 day, 30 days. That's also really valuable. But I guess that's the only thing that's really missing from these charts. But it's a really good idea to list these and keep an ongoing periodic review of these cookies because they might change. Depends on the relationship you might have with different third parties. So this was updated in 2026, which is good. We've got a definition of who the controller is. It's this entity. This is really valuable. I've talked about this not only in cookie notice reviews, but also in privacy reviews as well. When you're a business, if you go by a also known as name, make sure at the beginning of any of your notices, you are identifying who the data controller is, meaning who determines the means and purpose of processing as it pertains to your notice in the event that you need to address a data subject request, because that's a possibility. And what do I mean by data subject request? Let's say, for example, me, I've already exercised my rights in opting out of certain cookies related to my interaction with this site. But let's say, for example, I purchased a hardware product and I gave some of my information to this organization. If I ever wanted them to delete that information, I now know who to address to exercise my right. Depending on your residency will determine what type of rights you have. But based on where I'm a resident, I have the opportunity to ask organizations whom I've provided my personal data to delete my data. And I need to know which entity that is. Something I've seen, and I might start to highlight it going forward, is sometimes organizations will go by an acronym or a name that they're known as colloquially in their market or industry. But when it comes to the notice, consumers need to know which entity they can reach out to and who is responsible for the processing of their personal data. Sometimes we see this as the entity that is responsible, and then we also see affiliates. I think it's really important, and something that I actually capture on my own intake form is I ask organizations to outline all of the names of the legal entities where they are registered, because it could influence who actually is the controller and who needs to be listed on the notice. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, you're a global organization and you have a European legal entity that you have registered with the German authorities. But then you also have a headquarters in the United States and you have legally registered in Delaware. So you have two legal entities, one that you've registered in Delaware, one that you've registered in Germany. And whenever you're providing services in Europe, you provide those services through your European Union entity. So essentially, any European Union residents that want to exercise their rights need to be going to that European entity. You need to display that on your cookie notice and on your privacy notice if it's applicable. Now, sometimes organizations have just one website. They don't have a website that's displayed to European Union residents. They don't have a website that's displayed to US residents. If that is the case, you need to outline that and you need to make it clear whether it's in the introduction or if it's below. And we can see here, alternatively, inquiries may be addressed to. If you have a European legal entity and you want privacy inquiries or privacy related matters to be directed to that entity, you need to make it clear here in the how to contact us. So it really does depend on the size of your organization and how you want to ensure that you're fulfilling the data subject access requests. But essentially, it's your responsibility as the controller. A consumer is not going to know that. That's something that you have to align with your privacy counsel. Who are we going to list as the responsible party? If there are multiple responsible parties that can be reached out related to privacy related matters, who can consumers go to? You have that responsibility when you process their personal data. We use cookies and similar tracking technologies across our websites to enhance your browsing experience and analyze usage patterns and deliver related content and services. So this language here should be consistent with what is displayed in the cookie settings. When you visit our website, it may store or retrieve information on your browser, mostly in the form of cookies. This information might be about you, your preferences, or your device, and is mostly used to make this site work as you expect it to. The information does not usually directly identify you, but it can give you a more personalized web experience. Because we respect your right to privacy, you can choose not to allow some types of cookies. Click on the different category headings to find out more. You can accept or decline all but strictly necessary cookies or customize your cookie settings below. You can change your settings at any time. Let's talk about this sentence. So I really wanted to go through the actual notice, but I think it's really important and valuable for businesses to understand what truly constitutes consent. So under the privacy laws, consent must be freely given, it must be unambiguous, it must be just as easy to withdraw as it is to give the consent, and that's what this sentence addresses, right? It was easy for me to toggle functional targeting and performance cookies. Let's say I turn them on right now, right? This sentence says you can change your cookie settings at any time. So it should be, when a business is maintaining or creating a preference center, it should not take a million years for a consumer to be able to withdraw the consent they've given you as it pertains to their cookies. It should be just as easy for them to give the consent as it is for them to withdraw it, which I'm doing right now. So let's turn it on, confirm. So right now we've got all of those additional cookies being collected. Now, if I click this button again, it was just as easy for me to toggle in and out to confirm my choices, which has been displayed in the preference center. That's really important, and that's actually a requirement under the data protection laws, and businesses need to be aware of that. So I really hope you enjoyed this particular review. If you have any comments or questions about what I've stated, leave a comment below and I'll see you in another review.